Let's talk about more things you probably wouldn't know if you're not an interior designer. I want to talk a little bit about window treatment, specifically curtains and drapes. This is one of the first things in my career that I was really tripped up on and had to actually learn a lot about the topic. I know drapes and curtains are often used interchangeably, but there actually is a difference. Drapery is made of a heavier fabric. It's usually lined and used in more formal locations like a dining room. And then curtains are just like lighter fabrics, unlined, and usually casual. But both are relevant to the topic of how to hang them. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to be talking about the basic way of hanging them, which is on a curtain rod. There's obviously more complex, like built-in automatic systems, but I'm not going to touch on those. So first would be the height of the curtain rod. How high should you hang it? Typically, the rule is the higher the better. So generally, if you can take it all the way up to the ceiling, great. I couldn't do that here. I don't know if you can tell our walls are curved, so that is the highest it could go without it starting to tilt backwards. For reference, you can see that usually that's a good rule of thumb. It makes the room feel taller. But this also brings us to the width of the curtain rod. And this is honestly difficult to do the math on, especially if you don't have your drapes or curtains purchased already, because the rule for this rod that you'll be hanging them on is generally the width of the window, obviously, and then enough room on either side for a return stack. You can see here, this one has enough room to stack completely and not block the window, whereas on this one, even when they're fully drawn and stacked, they still cover the window. So that would mean that the rod isn't wide enough. And here is an example of that. The most ideal result would be that you're able to stack the curtains or drapes entirely to the side without blocking the window. So obviously a lot of factors are at play here. The width of your window, the width of the rod, the thickness of the curtain or drape, and how thick they will be once they are fully stacked. So if you have a really sheer thin curtain like this, then you wouldn't have to account for a lot of space on either side of the window, if that makes sense. Because the stack of this when they're fully drawn is going to be very minimal. I feel like that's a good place to start. There's obviously, like I said, so many factors at play, but that's kind of like the ideal of what you're trying to achieve. And the next one is just at the top of my mind because we recently installed hardwood floors for my client. And hopefully your installer would tell you this, but it's good to just know and factor into your timeline. Hardwood floors need time to acclimate in the space. You don't just purchase them, bring them home, and install them that same day. And I've heard a range of acclimation times. I'm sure it depends on the type of wood and the weather and where you live and everything. But for my client, it was about a week. And I will be continuing this series because I feel like you guys find this really useful. So I love making them and I have a bunch more. Till next time.